Peace, family. I'm live. I don't got no one in here as of yet. You know what I mean? I didn't really, put out two main videos this week, so I said let me go ahead and do a live stream for the family because on these weekends, these Saturday, in the afternoon, I always like to tap in. I try to stick to that uploading schedule. At least if I don't put out a video, during the week, I say to myself, let me at least tap in with the family on the weekend. So, I'm here, family. I hope everyone is enjoying their weekend. You know what I mean? And just relaxing and things like that. I needed a little bit of time to relax. That's why I really wasn't putting out, two main videos during the week like I normally do. Because sometimes, you just need that time to relax and, get your mind right, So, yeah, I'm here, family. Hope everyone is enjoying their weekend. And I ain't going to waste too much time. I don't want to be on here too long. So I'm going to get right into it. I want to talk about our FBA brother Tupac now, family. Our FBA brother Tupac, he really stood on reparations business, for the lineage, whether people know it or not. He had a couple songs, talking about justice for foundational Black Americans, in the form of cash reparations. He had a song called "Family We Everything They Owe," in which he talked about coming back to get the land, resources, and all of the, economic things that was taken out of us during slavery. You know what I mean? He talked about, coming back to get everything they owe, in the form of cash reparations. And then he also had a song called Family White Man's World. And, I quote our good FBA brother Tupac on the song and saying, what did he say? Help me raise my black nation. Reparations is due. It's true. Caught up in this world, I took advantage of you. Tell the babies how I love them. Precious boys and girls born black in this white man's world. So our brother Tupac was really, standing on reparations business, whether people know it or not. He was talking about, the stolen land, resources, and wealth that was taken, from our foundational Black American lineage. Once they cut us out of, once they let us, once we got our once we got our freedom from slavery, family, they cut us loose and they just cut us loose. They told us go compete. In the words of our brother, our good brother, Dr. Claud Anderson, compete with what? You know what I mean? They left us. It's like I'm gonna paraphrase this. Dr. Claude Anderson. I've been doing my little studying on him lately. He spoke a lot of truth to power. You know what I mean? And tried to get our people on code, you know what I mean? And his work, you know what I mean, is some great work. Dr. Claude Anderson really stands on business, you know what I mean? And that's a great teacher and scholar right there, you know what I mean? But he said basically, I'm paraphrasing, that when we got our freedom from slavery, and they cut us loose, it was like telling us to go compete, and enter the boxing ring. But only we had one arm, one hand tied behind our back, and how the hell you gonna box with one hand, behind your back? You at a disadvantage, truth be told. So that's what them, when we got our freedom from slavery, that's basically what they told us: go compete. Compete with what? You know what I mean? So reparations is a dead old, and we gonna have it. You know what I mean? This is why we keeping to talk about reparations in the mainstream public lexicon. But our brother Tupac, he really stood on reparations, lineage business. You know what I mean? And there's probably more songs. I think there's another one out there where he was talking about reparations for foundational Black Americans. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to bring that to the family's attention. But moving right along. Yeah, family. I came across. I was on IG, on another FBA creators post. You know what I mean? I left a comment and you got a damn, Sambo Coon, in the comment section, who's by the name of Big Ward, and come to find out this guy's actually a YouTube creator, but I don't know if it was really him and our brother's Instagram comments. So I'm gonna be fair about it. It might not have been him, but he's still gonna get cooked because in all actuality, he is a coon. Now I do believe this dude is from the lineage, but you know what I mean. Unfortunately, we got to deal with him. He's a Sambo coon. You know what I mean. And I said something to the effect of, FBA all day, and then in the IG comment section of our FBA brother over there on IG, I left a comment. I said something to the effect of, FBA all day, and this coon going to jump in the comment section and say, yeah, we vote for Trump, this, that, and the other. I'm like, we ain't voting as real foundational Black American brothers and sisters for either party. You know what I mean? Because they both wings off the same bird. You know what I mean? And we need those reparations ran to us quick, fast, and in a hurry. And he gonna say something. FBAs don't need reparations, this, that, and the other. FBAs are hateful, you know what I mean? You against Charlie Kirk and Trump. He's just a professional white ass kisser, you know what I mean? And a Republican shill, if you ask me. You know, he ain't nothing more than a coon, you know. And so I, you know, me seeing his name down there, I said, let me go see if this guy got a YouTube. Lo and behold, this guy got a whole YouTube channel with 100 and some thousand, you know, followers, this, that, and the other. You know, the dominant white society loves to, you know, elevate, you know, Sambos and the Coon class, you know, and the Tether class, people that get out here and speak a bunch of nonsense against, you know, black society. You know what I mean? They'll love to elevate that. In fact, you know, the white supremacists, you know, love listening to these kind of foolish individuals. That's why it's important that, you know, we keep our foot on the necks of these kind of, you know, sellout coon individuals and expose them. Like I said, you know, I did my little homework and research on this guy, and, you know, he's a coon, you know, and unfortunately, he's of the lineage. So, you know, I got some, you know, different clips of this, you know, coon I'm gonna play by the name of Big Ward, to where though he talking about, you know, black people don't be around other black people because you're gonna be hurt, you know, they gonna hurt you, this, that, and the other. Just a bunch of white supremacist talking points. This guy's a professional white ass kisser who, you know, lives for a pat on the head from white mommy and daddy. You know, he loves that. This is one of the guys our FBA brother Malcolm X talked about when he said, you know, our house burned down, massa. We got a problem, massa. We sick, master. He sees himself, you know, he looks at everything through the lens of white supremacy, you know, because in all actuality, he ain't nothing more than a white ass kisser. You know, so I got the audio and the video to where though this coon Big Ward is telling, you know, black folks to stay away from other black folks. They going to be hurt. That's a bunch of nonsense. You know what I mean? Because, uh, you know, in every society, in every group of race of people, you know, you'll have people that hurt one another. You know what I mean? And that ain't limited to black society. And you got plenty of foundational black American brothers and sisters that's on code with one another, you know, looking out for each other, you know, this, that, and the other. But the problem with this coon Sambo is he sees everything through the lens of a white supremacist. You know what I mean? Because he got a bunch of white supremacist talking points, you know, and he even said some nonsense about reparations, to where though they ain't take no economic, you know, wealth and money out of our asses. Yeah, they did. We was the first, you know, capital on Wall Street as foundational black Americans. You know what I mean? They didn't take nothing but wealth from us during slavery. So, you know, a debt is owed and we gonna have it. You know what I mean? And this coon is saying, you know, reparations don't gotta be cash payments, this, that, and the other. He just a professional white ass kisser trying to run interference for, you know, the Republicans, because he ain't not more than a Republican shill, if you ask me. But let's get into it, family. I don't want to waste too much time, you know, cooking this Sambo, you know, spend too much time on this Sambo.
It's threat into each other.
Fair use.
I get called a coon, clown, Uncle Tom, whatever. I hate my own race.
You are a coon and a sellout, you know what I mean? He said black people's biggest threat is one another, family. But let's continue.
Something is definitely wrong. What's the solution? I don't know. But something is wrong. As a black person in America, if you want to survive, you have to stay away from other black people unless you are doing something constructive, like the man said. Something positive. Y'all already planned it out before y'all even met up with each other. You can't wait till you see the person and then decide what y'all gonna do, because y'all the problem's gonna pop off. Because we already inbred in us that we hate each other. I can't stand such and so.
No, it ain't. Real FBA brothers and sisters getting on code daily, you know, working with one another, you know, supporting each other's, you know, businesses, although I like to see it more often, you know, but every element of society, every group of people, race of people, you know, got crimes committed against their own people. That ain't limited to black society. So stop trying to, you know, look at black society through the lens of white supremacy and paint us all with the same paintbrush. That's the way you see it, because in all actuality, you a damn, you know, Sambo Coon. But let's continue.
That fucking ass nigga. You know how we do. So, you heard it from someone besides me, because you just heard me say it. Most of y'all are calling me Uncle Tom sellout. This guy been...
You are a sellout. That sounds true, right, and exact.
Doing work in the black community before I was born, trying to uplift his enemy. Our biggest threat is each other.
Yeah, family. I just, you know, I'm gonna get into some more videos from this Sambo Coon. Let me pull them up. Just a second. This is the one I'm pulling up now, to where though he was saying, they ain't get no wealth out of us during slavery, and reparations don't got to be a check. In all actuality, he just want to say that he ain't for, FBA reparations because he's a damn, coon Sambo, Republican shill. Fair use. Bring this back a little bit.
We got black billionaires now. Black people own TV stations. Black.
Let me bring it back, family, a little bit more.
They took our running getting money. It was the mentality, the mental up here that has never been repaired. We got black billionaires now. Black people own TV stations. Black people own radio stations. Black people own multi.
And family, what he talking about is, reparations ain't going to repair, FBA society. You know what I mean? We got black billionaires, this, that, and the third, and we got so much $1 trillion spending power, and you know what I mean. We ain't talking about some black entertainer or celebrity here and there that's handpicked by the dominant white society. We speaking about the masses of FBAs, getting our justice, in the form of cash reparations, and all collectively getting our leg up. You know what I mean? He just a damn sellout Sambo Coon. You know what I mean? Put out here to run interference for the dominant white society, and we ain't going to have that. We're going to expose these kind of coons, even if they are of the lineage, every chance we get. You know what I mean? Because reparations is the dead old, and we're going to have it. You know what I mean? And you know we need that restorative justice, because basically when we got our freedom from slavery, because I've been going back listening to Dr. Claud Anderson, and his message, and he spoke a lot of truth to power. We're going to touch on our brother a little bit later in the broadcast, but they took wealth up out of us, and when we got out of slavery, they basically cut us loose and said, go compete with what? You know what I mean? It don't make no damn sense if you got a uh, $3-4 trillion spending power if you don't own businesses and institutions to spend that money in. You know what I mean? Because that's backwards. That your money is going back into the hands of the dominant white society, so it serves your people no good. We need more businesses and institutions to where though we ain't got to go outside of our society, and reparations will be directly able to address that, because more brothers and sisters, FBA brothers and sisters, will be building businesses and institutions. And this is the part why they don't want us to get reparations, but we're going to get it. But they ain't fair of us, collectively getting on code, building businesses and institutions, and FBAs becoming successful. Not some hand-picked Negro here and there, but the masses of FBA society. And we're going to get our justice claim, family. But I just want to expose this coon.
Multiple homes. We the reparation part financially, we own when it comes to money already without a check from the government, but we still messed up.
Nah, we need our damn check. You know what I mean? Reparations is a dead old. You know what I mean? And we ain't talking about some hand-picked Negro here and there that's throwing around the ball, rapping on the microphone. We talking about the masses of FBA society, the grassroots getting our just due, to where though we can impact our people on a large scale. We can massively get our leg up and pull other foundational Black American brothers and sisters in the community. You know what I mean? So he could miss me with this.
It's plenty. They're not keeping their foot on our neck when we still around here, can't get no money, broke, starving. Some of us are because y'all know why, ain't got to do with the government, but some people still blame the white folk for that. But that ain't why a lot of black people struggling. And
it's still discrimination of FBA society going on, race based, to where though FBAs can't go in there and get a loan that are qualified, this, that, and the other. He just a professional white ass kisser, family, and he must be exposed. So I'm calling him out, and I don't like taking my foot up off the neck of these kind of coons. You know what I mean? Because these kind of coons that get out here and make these outlandish statements, and folks will think that speaks to the magnitude of all Black society. That's the thought process of all Black society, which it ain't. You know what I mean? He just out here kissing white ass for clicks, likes, and views.
No, some of us won't admit it. But there's plenty of money in the black community right now. So how is money
That's spending money he talking about, family. It's a difference between, I've been going back and getting the game from our good brother, Dr. Claud Anderson. It's a difference between, spending power and ownership power, because the spending power, that don't mean a damn thing. That goes right outside of our, FBA lineage, quick, fast, and in a hurry. That goes to the Arab, the dominant white society, this, that, and the other. That don't benefit, black society, us having that, $1 trillion spending power. We need businesses and institutions to where though, that money staying locked into our society, not going out the door. So, and we ain't talking about one or two selected, hand Negroes that's throwing the ball, rapping on the microphone.
Fixed for slavery? Reparations, dumping a bunch of money in the black community. How is that to fix when we already got plenty of money? Think about that. Even me, I can make a little change. Ain't got no check from the government, no reparations, nothing. I do all right. Pay more other people. I ain't leaving no big,
Every FBA should be doing all right. Our ancestors built up the bulk of America, through forced slave labor, not to mention all the racism, Jim Crow, our people face, you know what I mean? So damn that, and damn what he talking about, you know what I mean? Everyone, gets restorative justice, and I'll be damned if we don't get it. This is why I, keep driving that reparations point home, because sooner or later we're going to get it, and the Coon can try to say, oh, we don't need it, it don't got to be a check, this, that, and the other. We're going to expose these coons and these tethers every chance we get, you know what I mean? Because they don't speak for us in, real FBA society.
So think about all the other black people that you know of. You might be watching the video as a black person that's making a good living without receiving no reparations, financial reparations. So why y'all still around here screaming for something that ain't gonna fix the problem? Because we already got money and we still got problems.
He talking about spending power, and I'm gonna keep reiterating it. During slavery, they took wealth out of our behinds. As foundational Black Americans, we were the first stock on the stock market. So restorative justices, need to be had. And we gonna have it because everyone else got restorative justice. So we demand ours. We got out of slavery through, fighting, injustice and oppression, and then they cut us loose and told us go compete. Compete with what? You left one of our hands tied behind our back, So yeah, we gotta, keep advocating for, reparations and everything we need in FBA society. You know what I mean? And a damn coon or a tether ain't gonna stop, FBA progress, because we gonna expose them every chance we get. You know what I mean? Because this big Ward cat, ain't nothing but a professional white ass kisser. He one of them dudes that Malcolm X, the coons that Malcolm X warned us about. Our house burned down, massa. The white man say he's sick. We sick, massa. We sick, boss. You know what I mean? He sees himself, as incorporated in the white society. He views things through the lens of a white supremacist. You know what I mean? So I just, I wanted to expose this coon because folks will think that, his thoughts and opinions speak to the magnitude of all FBA society, which it don't, you know what I mean? He ain't nothing but a, bought and paid for, in the pocket coon, so I'm moving right along. I just wanted to expose this, professional white ass kisser family. But I want to talk about our good brother, Dr. Claud Anderson, because like I was saying, I was going back and doing my homework and research on, brother Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Claud Anderson been warning us about things and, trying to get us on code based off of lineage for years. He been telling us to spend money, in our own communities, and look out for your own people first and foremost. Don't get involved in horizontal issues. Dr. Claud Anderson was talking about something called horizontal issues, family, to where though, don't get involved in immigration, sexism stuff, feminist stuff, or like male chauvinistic stuff, to where though they just advocating for males. None of that is our problem. We were enslaved as black people, as foundational black Americans, so none of them issues matter. We got to keep, our eyes on what's going on in FBA society, keep our eyes on things that's going on that will affect our lineage. This is how we get our leg up. And we doing that now, getting on code based off of the lineage. I think we finally starting to get it, and this is why folks are so mad and having a hissy fit because we ain't advocating for, immigration, this, that, and the third, rainbow gang rights, because none of that, evolves FBA society. You know what I mean? We got to keep laser focused on, our issues, and this is how we get our leg up. You know what I mean? Because they want us, and like, scrambling around, and concerned in this matter, that matter, and every other matter, but matters of FBA society, and when we worry about FBA society, this is why we getting the ball rolling so much now. You know what I mean? We got to talk about reparations really out there in the forefront, because we ain't being pulled in all these different directions, advocating for all these different people. We specifically laser focused on our lineage, and I love it. You know what I mean? Because we for damn sure going to get our justice claim in the form of cash reparations, you know what I mean? But we just got to, stay laser focused on, FBA society like we've been doing. So, yeah, I want to talk about some of what our brother, Dr. Claud Anderson, had been teaching us for years, you know what I mean? He was telling us to where though, how I was talking about, with this big war cat, hand-picked Negroes, you know what I mean, being elevated to celebrity status that could rap on a microphone, throw a ball. Them folks are, safe folks, picked by the dominant white society. They ain't going to really affect no real true change in black society because they've been hand selected as being safe. You know what I mean? This is why they'll run outside the black community and buy all of these clothes, when you got black clothing brands, businesses right down the street from them, that are grassroots, that are, putting out clothes, that got their own clothing brand. They won't support them, but run off and go support Gucci, Fendi, and Prada. They won't never in a million years elevate black society, but they'll, spend money outside of the community and do a bunch of nonsense, and really not be about black empowerment because they've been chosen as being safe, by the dominant white society. So they ain't going to try to push for no advocacy for foundational black Americans and prop up the lineage because they, tokenized Negroes. So I'm going to let our brother, Dr. Claud Anderson, break it down beautifully, how he does, Let me pull it up, family. Just bear with me for a second. FBA Convo. Salute the family FBA Convo. FBA salute. Pull our brother Dr. Claud Anderson up. Dr. Claud Anderson spoke a bunch of truth to power, and I don't think he gets enough, credit for really being one of the, thought provokers and real, people that stands on business as far as this FBA thing goes, as far as the lineage goes.
So you'll never forget it. The first
started from about here.
At some point,
fair use.
your exceptionality should be brought up and should be dignified. That you were the first in all these things. You were the first people. You were the first Jews. You're the first human beings.
Listen how brother Dr. Claud Anderson talks about these, hand-picked, celebrity Negroes that got all the money in the world, but, won't for a second be about, black empowerment and building up the black community. They, like I said, they could have one of our FBA brothers and sisters could be running a clothing brand, and instead of, these black entertainers and celebrities supporting that, they'll run off the first chance they get and spend money outside of the community with Gucci and Fendi and Prada, and that don't empower us, that ain't keeping the money locked into our society, and we got to get away from that, family.
On earth, you're different. Exceptionality. And I want you, and all these marches that you have, I want you to start marching towards exceptionality. And so we're going to get into that. But first, let me say, I don't want to deviate from what is customary that I do whenever I come to one of these occasions. That is to try to give you a status report on black people in America. And let me tell you up front, you are not progressing. I've been telling you that now for 25 to 30 years, even when I was with the Carter.
And keep in mind, family, like that sellout Sambo Big Ward was saying, having, a $3 trillion, $4 trillion spending power, how they say we do in foundational black American society, that don't mean nothing because the money's going right outside of our community. That ain't ownership power. We got to own the businesses and institutions so, our people could spend that money with us and it could, benefit FBA society, not some damn, people outside of our community. Damn that.
Administration going around the country. You're not going to progress. You're going backwards. You're going backwards. The only people, blacks in America, are progressing are those who are locked into a vein called entertainers. If you're an entertainer, what you're telling white folk is that you are safe as a birth control pill. There ain't nothing.
See, entertainers is safe. They ain't going to really affect no real true change. They could have $1 billion, but they ain't going to put that, put anything in the black society to make sure that black people, are good and help black people get our just due, our leg up. They can empower our business just by simply, FBA brother and sister, like I said, could own a clothing business, own any kind of business. An entertainer could give them, prop their business up just by simply wearing their clothes, but they won't do it. They rather prop up Gucci, Fendi, Prada, all of these damn companies that don't give a damn about our people, yet extract the black dollar from our community and don't give a damn about us. Damn that.
Gonna happen. You're not gonna do anything for black folk. If you're running with a ball, joking, telling jokes, singing, dancing, that's safe. White folk, that doesn't frighten white folk.
And that's cool, people rapping on the microphone, throwing the ball, but we need, real FBA movers and shakers, to where though we got black lawyers, people that got, black schools, black restaurants, to where though, you ain't got to go to what have you. You ain't got to go to Red Lobster, all of these damn businesses and corporations that's outside of our business. We need to own and control every facet of our existence. And this is how we get our leg up. And this is, what coming on code does. How Brother Tariq talks about getting on code. Getting on code means you looking out for your people first and foremost, looking out for the needs of other FBAs, supporting FBA businesses, and just loving on FBAs in general. That's why getting on code, how we doing, as of now, we making so much headway, you know what I mean? Because we ain't being, involved in these horizontal issues, rainbow gang agendas, immigration, to where though they want to pull us in every direction so we don't focus on ourselves and us getting our just due.
They'll give you a television show. They'll put you on 10 television shows. They'll make you a host of a television show. They'll let you broadcast every sport event. As long as you don't address any issues dealing with black folk and the problems that black folk have.
And I'm convinced that they tell these damn entertainers that, we'll prop you up and give you some money. The dominant white society comes to them, before they put them in a position of power. This is what I think, and tell them, we'll give you all of this, but you can't be about the needs and advocate for your people, you know what I mean? Or else we're going to, take it all from you. And we see that when some, black entertainers, try to be about, FBA needs and interests, they try to strip them, put bogus, trumped up charges on them. You know what I mean? This is why we empower our own people, to where though, they could really be about, we could be about our own people. We pour in our own businesses and institutions to where though we ain't taking funding from the dominant white society or anything. We generating everything we need to fully sustain ourselves. This is how you take control of power.
So so when you all see all these blacks on television, read about them in the newspaper, those blacks have been classified as being 20 times safer than the birth control pill. There ain't nothing gonna happen for black folk. And so this morning, I want to let you know that you...
Brother Dr. Claud Anderson, true, right, and exact in that. They've been handpicked and selected. They safer than the birth control pill. They ain't going to advocate for no FBA needs, interests, or issues, whatsoever. You know what I mean? They're just, put in that position, but I want to move from that family and, we're going to still stay on the topic of our good brother, FBA brother, Dr. Claud Anderson, but I just want to move to something else he was talking about. Because our brother speaks nothing but truth to power. I'm going to let it play from here. Fair use.
Then you take that wealth and money and income, and you use it to benefit and lift your people. And you use it all.
Now he's talking about his plan, to put foundational black Americans in a seat, in a position of power, which is powernomics. I think more FBA brothers and sisters need to get that book, Powernomics, and really, start studying our brother, Dr. Claud Anderson's message, because he stood on business and, he was, at the forefront of, talking about, FBAs getting on code based off of lineage, supporting, businesses and, really trying to, shift things, to us being in a power position, so I respect this brother all day, every day.
Also, to take the surplus capital and you go to the second floor in that 5-story building. On the second floor in that 5-story building, that's politics. That's politics. That's where your politicians are. Quit letting people mislead you about voting. Voting ain't worth a damn if you don't have an economy. Amen. I have run political campaigns for presidents, for governors, for attorney generals, for congressional people, for mayors, and city council people. Politics, voting in politics ain't worth a quarter in voting if you don't have an economy. Right. It's money that controls your politics. Right. You take your money on that first floor and the powernomics concepts that I'm trying to get you all to buy into. You take that money off the first floor, you buy every politician on the second floor.
See, this is what we got to start doing, family. Making moves to where though we getting our own businesses. On a massive level. The masses of FBAs. Getting our own businesses to where though we putting these politicians in the pocket so they could, advocate for our needs and interests, not the needs and interests of the Rainbow Gang. Immigration, this, that, and the other. None of which does a damn thing for FBA society. We need to get these, people that's running for political office to start speaking and, pressing their foot on the gas pedal for reparations. You know what I mean? And I don't give a damn, if they red, green, purple, yellow, black, whatever color they are, if they advocating for reparations and really going to deliver on it, we get behind them. You know what I mean? And we got to start putting them in the pocket to be able to do so. You know what I mean? Get them in our pocket to where though, they can advocate for our needs and interests.
Don't worry about voting, buy them. Be just like the mafia. Be like the mafia. Just buy them. If you can't, you don't have enough money to buy them, then rent or lease them for a while. You rent and lease them. Then you commission him and say, now on this second floor, now that I bought you, just like this next election, you can see all this money going into all these candidates, billions and millions of dollars. They're buying those politicians. You buy them on the second floor. And then you tell them on the second floor, now, under the powernomics principles, I bought your rear end. You now take your rear end to the third floor. And on the third floor, that's your court system. I don't care whether it's the Supreme Court or the local superior courts or county courts or city courts or state courts. And you buy them. And you tell them on that second floor in the court system, you start taking care of my people and doing right. The courts control the police department. The third floor is the courts and the police department. The police department would not be killing your people and shoot them down if they knew that you had an economy underneath you. They're going to pull in.
I agree with a lot of brother Dr. Claud Anderson is saying here. I agree with all of it.
How many of you seen police shooting down Jews, for instance, running? How many times they've been shooting down Asians? How many times you heard them shooting down American Indians?
He's speaking to nothing but truth to power. Salute to our good brother, Dr. Claud Anderson. Family, we need to start getting that economic power behind us, supporting Black-owned businesses. First and foremost, when your brother or sister makes a business, support them. You know what I mean? Because this is only, benefiting, FBA society, it's keeping the wealth and the resources locked into our society. This is why, a lot of time, you got these damn race soldiers running around shooting Black folks all willy-nilly, like Dr. Claud Anderson said, retreating, Black folks is retreating, running, a damn race soldier shoots them in the back because they know 9 times out of 10 they ain't gonna be, punished. It's a white supremacist society that we under anyway, you know what I mean? And we don't own enough, economic power and got enough control of our wealth and resources to where though we could hold people accountable. It takes money to hold people accountable, you know what I mean? Especially in a capitalistic white supremacist society.
They only shoot down Black folk. You don't have an economy to dictate to the police department or to the court system. Then once you dictate to them, you take that money off this first floor, you go to the fourth floor. Your fourth floor is your media. You all got to start producing media in these communities.
It's important owning the media too. I'm gonna let brother Dr. Claud Anderson break it down, then I'm gonna add to it.
And take that money and start going into buying media. You got about 12,000 radio stations in the United States, about 12,000 cable systems in the United States, about 5,000 daily newspapers in the United States, and about 5,000 also, what did I miss? Television stations. You own nothing. Out of 12,000 radio stations, you probably now own about 60 or 70. Out of cable systems, you don't own any.
And this is true right in exact. We don't own enough media. You know what I mean? You got Tyler Perry, but he pushing an agenda he bought paid for, as well. You know what I mean? This is why we need, grassroots things, real FBA brothers and sisters on the grassroots to get involved in these different, fields of, industry like media, this, that, and the other, because the media controls the optics, the way in which people paint your society. You know what I mean? This is why you see Black folks, painted negatively on TV, being drug dealers, shows, the stereotypical things that white supremacy likes to see, which black men not being there for their kids, which is, a bogus, narrative put out there by the dominant white society, white supremacist society, because, a lot of FBA brothers are there for their child. But this is why we see, these negative imageries of our people, because we don't control the media outlets to where though we control the optics of our people, the way in which our people are depicted on the screen and even in, music.
Not one. Television station used to own one out of 5,000. Daily newspaper, you don't own anything. Not one daily newspaper. How in the world can you communicate? How in the world can you mobilize your people when you don't own the media?
And we had a black-owned newspaper company, one of the first FBA ones, in America, which was Freedom's Journal, if I'm correct. Don't hold me to that. I might have got the name wrong, but the Freedom's Journal was the first. But integration destroyed a lot of our economic power. We was building businesses and institutions. We had things really moving and shaking, family. Dr. Claud Anderson's family had one of the biggest black-owned bus lines in America. You know what I mean? But integration destroyed a lot of that. Integration was a trick bag. We should have never integrated into their system. We was better off when we had our own businesses and institutions, because integrating into their system, that's integrating into somebody's house. When they integrated us, they took our economic power and control, and that went right back into the hands of white supremacist society. So we should have never pushed for integration. We should have been pushing for like economic empowerment, the stuff that Dr. Claud Anderson is advocating for and been advocating for years.
Media to get in touch with them and tell them what to do. If you right now try to promote something for black folk, most media will not even carry it.
You hear that, family? Brother Dr. Claud Anderson said if you really trying to push, products and services for black folks, most of these medias ain't going to, push that. You know what I mean? Because they white, ran, led, and controlled. We got to start owning our own media to where, though, if our brother got a new business, our sister down the street, got a hair salon, where she's braiding this, that, or the other, we running her commercials, on our TV stations. You know what I mean? Because the dominant white society for sure as hell ain't going to do it, and we can't expect them to do it. It's an inside job for us to empower our FBA lineage. The same, exactly what Dr. Claud Anderson is speaking on.
Most white corporations won't even buy tickets or ads to help you do it. If you have a black radio station, you cannot have black media unless you got black businesses, because you need the advertising dollars to keep the business, keep the radio station, the media going. And then people say, why can't we own some radio? Because you don't have any businesses to buy the ads. White's not going to buy it. But you can get white racists on TV and on the radio. You can get the Rush Limbaughs or the Hannitys or O'Reillys on the Fox channel.
And they'll put a Coon and a Tether out there in the media and prop them up, you know what I mean? Because they safe and they gonna, go against real FBA empowerment, you know what I mean? And be a shield and a buffer for them to spew white supremacist talking points to where though, they could say what the white supremacists can't get out here and say. They'll elevate them quick, fast, and in a hurry. But if you get a real FBA brother or sister that's, really trying to empower the community and be about, building up, black empowerment, they ain't pushing these kind of things. This is why we got to control our own media outlets to where though, we can, give our people a co-sign and endorse at the drop of a dime.
That whole Fox channel is loaded down with racists. But they get the advertising dollars to stay on the air. You know why? Because you give them the money. I don't see any black folk in America renegotiating their relationships. When did you renegotiate your relationship with white corporations? Saying that if I see you supporting the Fox channel on this negative stuff about black folk, you'll never get another dollar out of the black America. You won't do it.
That's how we got to be on it, family. When somebody says something disparaging about FBA society, tries to paint black society in a negative light, that we thugs, criminals, this, that, and the other, we got to make sure that we taxing their asses and behinds. And the only way to, hurt white supremacists is to hit them where it hurts, right in them pockets, and you need, to be on code to be able to do this. You need your own businesses, institutions, media, to where though, you got an economic hub, to be your base of empowerment to do this.
You should be doing it. Y'all should be sending letters every chance you get and calling on the say any white person.
This is why you don't hear people coming at, Jews or Asians wrong, family. Somebody says something wrong about, the Jews or the Asians, they make sure they tax them, and ain't nobody supporting them. They're going to boycott them, and everybody going to boycott. They ain't going to get a red cent out of, a Jew or an Asian if you speak something negatively about them. You know what I mean? They're going to turn their backs on you. You know what I mean? And they're going to remove all support, from you. And this is how, we got to be an FBA society. We got to make it sure, we got to make it to where as though, people say stuff wrong about us, we taxing them, you know what I mean? And we all stand on code, because people know they can say and do whatever the FBA society, and there ain't no financial backing, to where though we holding them accountable. You need a real financial hub to be able to hold people accountable and remove support from them. You take your dollar out of them. That's how, my mom always told me that when she gave me game. She told me that you want to hurt a white supremacist, you hit them where it hurts, right in the pockets, because the only thing they respect is money, control, and power.
On any of the Fox channel, I hear saying something that implies or suggests or intimate that black folk are stupid, lazy, and dumb, and criminal. We will shut off every dollar coming into your company.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
They're not scared of you. They got your money for granted. They know they're going to get your dollar because they know you don't have any businesses to buy from. You don't have any alternative places to go get your gasoline, like in Detroit, Michigan, when the Arabs took over.
And family, this is why they don't want us to get reparations, even though we're going to get it, because I personally going to keep my foot on the gas pedal of reparations every chance I get on my channel. But this is why they really don't want us to get reparations in all actuality. They know if the masses of FBAs, get our, justice claim in the form of cash reparations, we ain't going to squander that damn money. They like to say, well, if you FBAs get the money, you going to buy Air Jordans, rims for your car, stereo systems. The hell if we are. They in fear of giving it to us because they know we're going to remove that support from their businesses and institutions. And real FBA brothers such as myself and sisters are going to start building businesses and institutions to where though we could really help our people, and that money stays locked into our society and it don't go out the doors, to other people who don't give a damn about us.
144 out of 146 gas stations. You don't own and control anything. You're dependent on them. They say, we ain't worried about them black folk. They don't have any choice but to come give us their money. We'll kick their butts and they still got to give us their money. And the same thing is true with politics. The Republican Party don't need you. They know they got you locked in box. They know you're going to belong to the Democratic Party. Democratic Party said, we got you locked in box. We don't need you either.
This is why, what we doing by setting things out, we making a powerful statement by not voting for either political party. When we FBA said we voting for the couch, we are making a powerful statement, family. Don't never let no one tell you otherwise. You know what I mean? Because neither of these damn political parties give a damn about us, and it's a horizontal issue. You know what I mean? Us being worried about political parties, this, that, and the other. What we got to worry about is getting, our justice claim in the form of cash reparations to where though, we can make a statement, to really, get our hands on some economic funds, not one or two hand chosen, tokenized Negroes, but the masses of FBA society. Because when we do that, we're going to build businesses and institutions to where though we can employ our people, take care of our people. Somebody need a job, we got them, and this is why they don't want us to get reparations. But, getting involved in political, the political discord, that's not serving us in foundational Black American society. Because if you ask me, the right wing and the left wing ain't nothing but branches off the damn same tree, you know what I mean? And we got to be worried about whoever's willing to produce, either the right wing or the left wing, which either one of them produces, that's the one I'm voting for. Whoever got some tangibles for FBA society. I ain't married to none of these damn political parties. I'm married to who's going to enact some real true change for my people. And that's how we got to start viewing it. This is why folks is so mad with the delineation movement and us not being concerned with all of these other priorities that, seek to have us in disarray. With us worrying about FBAs, society and getting on code based off of the lineage, we really shaking things up to where though we controlling things because our power ain't being wasted on things that don't serve us. We keeping all of our power for ourselves. So when it's time to rise up and get some real shaking and moving done, we got all of our power and we strong and we mighty. We able to do that. But let's continue, family.
Because you see, my people, your leadership has not got enough intellectual credulity and internal fortitude and common sense to say, hey, let's not support.
And these so-called black leaderships we got now with the NAACP Congressional Black Caucus, filled up with tethers, this Coons, this, that, and the other, that's controlled opposition. You know what I mean? This is why we're rejecting that in a large part as of now. You know what I'm saying? We ain't for either of these damn political parties. This is why everybody having a hissy fit, because us really getting on code and looking out for our needs and interests as foundational black Americans, first and foremost, that's really shaking things up and throwing a monkey wrench in the game.
Either one of the parties. Let's create. You all could be the most powerful people in this nation within 1 or 2 years if you did one single thing. If you withdrew publicly from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and said, we don't need either one of you.
Salute to Dr. Claud Anderson. We don't even need one of them damn political parties. Neither of them is about real FBA empowerment. You know what I mean? They play a game of benign neglect to where though they turn their face to FBA needs and issues, and put all of their focus on immigration, this, that, and the other, so damn both of them, both of them wings off the same bird. We got to be about FBAs first and foremost. And that's how we get our leg up, getting on code is our superpower.
We're going to create a black independent party.
And this is something we should look into too, family. How he's talking about a black independent party, getting money and capital behind us and getting our own.
And in that black independent party, we're going to trick you all because we're not going to run any candidates. I wouldn't run any candidates. I would create me a black independent party. I wouldn't run not one candidate. But I would say this. We're going to vote as a block. You're going to get 43 million black votes. And we will deliver that 43 million black votes to whoever promises most and delivers the most to black folk. Yeah.
She's sitting it out on the couch. That's a good thing. That's making a statement. But we might need to really, fathom getting our own political party, like Dr. Claud Anderson is speaking of, getting some money behind somebody and co-signing and endorsing them to where though they about the needs and the interests of FBA society first and foremost.
We don't care what political party you belong to. You can be.
Salute to my sister Patricia. Thanks for highlighting Dr. Claud Anderson, who was putting us on point years ago. Keep up the good work, brother. Shout out to my sister Patricia. Thanks for tuning in, sister, and thanks for everyone in the chat. Shout out to the family Funky and Andrena Weston. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Who said yes, Tupac was a FBA brother, and I love him. And shout out to FBA 6769. But let's continue, family. Yeah, our brother Dr. Claud Anderson was powerful, and he still is powerful, you know what I mean? But I watched one interview where Dr. Claud Anderson, broke down crying, speaking about the state and condition of black folks. This is how this brother's really, grassroots. This brother really cares about the needs and the interests of FBA society. He really wants us to get our leg up. You know what I mean?
And we don't care whether you're a black person, a white candidate, a pink candidate, a yellow candidate, or just an outright Sambo. We don't care. We will vote for anybody who would deliver and promises the most to black folk.
That's the kind of time I'm on. I don't give a damn if it's a Republican, Democrat, red, yellow, green, purple, black, orange, whoever's going to deliver on the promises to FBA society, that's who I'm going to get out there and co-sign and endorse all day, every day. But moving right along, family, I want to jump over there to TikTok. We still going to stay on, highlighting our brother Dr. Claud Anderson. I got a video over there. I hate going over there to TikTok because it's always glitchy when I'm trying to, talk on videos. It always glitches, so hopefully it don't glitch. I'm going to go over here to my page on TikTok because I've been sharing little Dr. Claud Anderson videos over there on TikTok that I can't really put up all the time on my YouTube page because of copyright issues, so I just share them over there on TikTok. But I'm going to be breaking this down. This is the one I want.
But what they did with integration, they took the high.
I don't know how to get this down. Just a second, family.
But what they did with integration, they took the high.
Why is that coming up there? Hold on, family. Just a second. Bear with me. The hell? I don't know why these popping.
But what they did with integration, they took the Highway Act and said, if you all want to enter, but what they did with integration.
Okay, family, here go the video. We're going to be talking about Dr. Claud Anderson still standing on business, speaking, the truth about, integrating into, their system, the way, and integrating into white society. It's hurt, FBA society, in a lot of ways. And economically, was one of the biggest ways that integrating, hurt our people, truth be told, because before that, we had our own businesses and institutions to where though we had black laundromats, barbershops, bus lines, cab companies, filmmaking studios, this, that, and the other, you name it, we had it in FBA society. But integrating, into their system, that put the money back into the hands of the dominant white society. It was a trick bag. We should have never been fighting to integrate. We should have been fighting for economic control and power, and keeping our own, our own independence, because we were powerful back then, because we were making, financial moves, and empowering our own people, and that's why they tried to derail, and get us on that integration kick, and even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the good brother, because he's still a good brother, he tried to do what he could do, at the time. He worked with what he had, and he even said, when he realized that integrating was a trick bag, I feel that I integrated my people into a burning home. But let's get into this Dr. Claud Anderson video, family, to where though he's speaking a bunch of truth to power. Fair use. Hopefully it don't mess
But
up.
what they did with integration, they took the Highway Act and said, if you all want to immigrate, you're going to come here without any power and resources. So they took the Expressway of 1952 Act and they drove an expressway through every black community in America. And so now,
and them highways being ran through black communities, they hurt black businesses, disenfranchised black families, and integration, stripped us of power and resources, integrating into their system. Truth be told, this is the real, Dr. Claud Anderson, giving tough love and keeping it real, and he's standing on a bunch of FBA business.
Any city I go to, I can find a black neighborhood by finding the expressway. Either the black neighborhood will be up over it, underneath it, or beside it. And now you have no black businesses. And in North Carolina, where I grew up, my family was the only family that had a part ownership in the only black bus line in the entire United States. We didn't have.
You hear that, family? You know how powerful and much of a statement we was making back in the days, even though we got black businesses now, but back then we were really, thriving, the only black bus line in the nation, and it was a massive bus line. This wasn't no little scale operation that Dr. Claud Anderson's family had. They had part ownership in it. This wasn't no little scale operation. It was a massive, bus line, to where though they was getting, black folks, and even he said they service white areas and communities. You know what I mean? It was a massive, operation, but integration destroyed a lot of that because black people stopped wanting to patronize their fellow brother and sister, ride on, black bus lines. They wanted to, get on the white bus line, ride in white cabs, this, that, and the other. They stopped supporting, black owned clothing shops and started going to the white ones. So that destroyed a lot of our economic power and control. But that's, what brother Dr. Claud Anderson is telling the truth on. He's keeping it really real on this, family. And this is, powerful, what he's talking about, if it plays. I hate coming over here on TikTok. Videos always glitch.
Part ownership in the only black bus line in the entire United States. We didn't have a bus line with 3 or 4 buses. We had the biggest bus line in the state and the only one in America for blacks. We had over 500 buses.
Damn.
We serviced the black neighborhoods and the white neighborhoods. What put us out of business was not Duke Powell, who we put out of business. What put us out of business was integration.
You hear what put them out of business, family? Was integration. And they had the biggest black owned bus company in the nation over here in America. Can you imagine how many brothers and sisters, this was employing, feeding the community, this, that, and the other, and that money was staying locked into our our society as foundational Black Americans. It wasn't going outside of our communities. This is why we had such a strong, economic hub, before we integrated into their system. It destroyed a lot of the Black-owned businesses, truth be told.
Because when Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks integrated the buses down in Montgomery, and Black folk wanted to sit on the front of the bus. When it got to North Carolina, the people in North Carolina, the Blacks said, we want to sit on the front of the white buses too. And we said, but we don't have any black in the white buses up here. They said, well, get some so we can sit on the front of them. And so we went out of business. We had black cab companies. We had 2 black cab companies, the Harris and Camel City cab companies. They went out of. We had black cab companies. We had 2 black cab companies.
Not pausing when I wanted to. This is why I don't like coming over here on TikTok. But yeah, family, integration in today's system was one of the biggest mistakes we ever made. We should have kept our economic power and control. You know what I mean? And this is, how you take control of power. This is why they wanted to, sabotage that and have us integrate into today's system to where though they could take all of our capital and put it into the dominant white society. And that's the only thing integration did. It wasn't empowering FBA society. It was just taking our, they seen we was moving and shaking, had a bunch of businesses and institutions going. We was making real power moves. And they said, let's figure out a way to get this money from these Black folks. Let's get it going back into the hands of the dominant white society. And that's what they did. They put out a trick bag and, they tried to reel us in hook, line, and sinker. And it worked, you know what I mean? And the good brother Martin Luther King, said before, he passed that integration, he feared that integration thing, he integrated his people into a burning house. He realized
the Harris and Camel City cab companies, they went out of business. You know why? Blacks didn't want to ride in the black cabs anymore. They want to ride in the white cabs. They wanted to ride in the yellow cab and the bluebird cab. We had our own theaters. We had the Lafayette, the Lincoln Theater chain all over America. We had film companies in Jacksonville, Florida. Norman Productions in Jacksonville made black westerns and black love romance films. We had a black studio in Chicago and a black studio here in Hollywood called Hollywood Productions. It was black owned. We made our own films. Now we have no studios, no distribution system, and no theaters. And what I'm telling you all is you're going backwards. We had mattress factory, we had broom factory, we had blacks in the oil drilling companies. We had a black railroad line in Jacksonville, Florida. We had another black railroad company in Oklahoma. And now we have nothing in the entire United States because integration took it away from us. The other thing the integration does for you, you got to understand, integration also is draining your capital. All your money now is moving out of your community into the white community. Okay? Nothing in the entire United States because integration took it away from us. The other thing the integration does for you, you got to understand.
Trying to get it to pause, family don't want to cooperate with me, but yeah, integration was a big mistake. It destroyed a lot of the capital, the moves we was making in FBA society. It was a trick bag in all actuality. You know what I mean? To get the money from our community going back into the hands of the dominant white society. We should have never, done that, you know what I mean? Because it destroyed, our economic hub and stronghold we had, you know what I mean? And a lot of, Black folks, stopped wanting to support. Let's keep it real and honest. They stopped wanting to support their fellow brother and sister. They wanted to, go ride on the white bus lines, like Dr. Claud Anderson said, support white-owned businesses and institutions. You know what I mean? And no community can thrive, not supporting their own businesses and institutions. This is why we pushing for, foundational Black Americans to get on code. And it's a beautiful thing that, in large part, I see that we doing that, you know what I mean? Because this is taking back control of our narrative, we empowering our own people, to where though, we making sure that FBAs is looked out for, your brother got a business, you support it, we not being about the needs of all of these other groups of people that don't give a damn about us. What they want to have us do is, take the brunt of their blows, with immigration, Rainbow Gang, and all of these different agendas, be out there advocating for them, absorb all of their blows to where though we ain't focusing on our needs and interests, you know what I mean? And damn that, because nobody stands up and fights our battles for us, so they got to hold their own nuts with that, immigration thing and all of these other agendas that they want to, try to dilute FBA needs, business, and issues with, you know what I mean? But moving right along, family.
The other thing the integration does for you, you got to understand, Integration also is draining your capital. All your money now is moving out of your community into the white community. Okay? Black America right now is the 9th richest nation on earth. We got approximately $380 billion worth of disposable income. We're richer than Sweden, Australia, Canada, Pakistan, India, and all the black African countries put together. But we're the poorest nation on earth because we violate every principle of economics. Your money is supposed to stay inside your community and...
Yeah, family, like Dr. Claud Anderson is saying, big shout out, salute to him. Your money got to stay with your own people, because even though we got that semi-trillion-dollar spending power, we don't got the business and institutions to spend it in. So it's going outside of our community. These other groups of people give a damn about us, you know, and let's keep it real. These other groups of people, they empower their people first and foremost. So we got to, you know, start doing this. I see that we doing it now, you know, with this delineation thing and getting on code, you know, identifying our FBA lineage and getting on code with other FBAs based on that. But we got to start doing it more in large part, because these outside businesses and entities don't give a damn about us. You know, white people support white people first. Asians support Asians. You know, you'll be hell pressed to see an Asian supporting an FBA business owner. So why the hell are we taking our money and resources and supporting these people that don't got our best needs and interests in mind? You know, that's the definition of insanity. You know, keep doing that over and over and over. We got to get off that kick to where, though, we looking out for our brothers and sisters first. You know, and that's just, you know, that's just basic. You know, we got to start doing that. That should be a no-brainer to people. You know, support your own businesses first and foremost, because that's how you empower yourself, you know, and take control of power.
Nation on earth, because we violate every principle of economics. Your money is supposed to stay inside your community and bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves. Black money does not bounce one time. You know why it doesn't bounce one time? Because you don't have any communities to bounce it in. You're so busy integrating. Where are you going to bounce it? How are you going to pass it through another black hand? So as soon as a black person gets paid, before it touches another black hand, he runs right to the suburbs and spends it. He spends 95% of his money immediately outside his own community. He keeps 5% to take back into his community. Out of 5% he takes back into his community, he spends 3% of that in non-black owned hands in his own communities. Look around your neighborhood, goes into non-black owned businesses. Only 2% again, only 2% of all the black people in America keep their own money. All the black people in
And if you notice, family, a lot of these, you know, Asians and Arab business owners, Latino business owners, they come to FBA communities and they set up shop to exploit, you know, and extract that FBA dollar out of the community. And we got to stop supporting them. You know what I mean? If you ain't got an FBA business in your community, drive a little bit further. It might take you a little bit to get there, but if you got one 20, 30 minutes away, the extra driving ain't going to hurt you, because you got to look at it to where, though, it's empowering your community. Us giving these dollars to these, you know, outsiders, these damn tethers, you know, even, let's keep it real, you know, these African business owners, they don't support, you know, FBA societies, damn African and Caribbean shops. They stay in their little own groups and enclaves and support their people first and foremost. So if we got to drive to get to an FBA business, sometimes, damn it, family, we just going to have to drive to get to an FBA business. You know what I mean? To where, you know, until we get, you know, more FBA businesses in our community, you know what I mean? And that can only happen, you know, us getting more businesses in our community. If we don't got none that's FBA, is through us getting on code and looking out for each other first and foremost. Because if we don't look out for each other, no one else in the world will. You know what I mean? They don't give a damn about us. But let's continue. If he wants to play.
only 2% community. Only 2% again. Only 2% of all the black people in America keep their own money in their own communities. And then out of the 2% they keep, they then take that down to a white bank and put it in the bank, can't even get a loan. And now you're bankrupt. And now you're bankrupt. You go bankrupt every 24 hours, this is regular clock. You go bankrupt every 24 hours.
Yeah, family, like we got to start even, you know, looking into banking with more, you know, black owned businesses and banks, you know, and institutions, you know, because FBA brothers and sisters go to the banks, you know, left and right and try to get loans. We just seen it, you know, about a year or so ago with Navy Federal Credit Union. qualified, FBA brothers and sisters was going in there, got more credentials than, somebody that's with the complexion for the protection, some of these white folks, and these white folks were getting the loans right over top of our people. So yeah, it don't make no sense, doing business with, people outside of our community either. If you gotta, go a little bit farther to get to a black bank, bank online, I would seriously look into it, family. You know what I mean? And if we don't got enough black banks, we got to seriously start, trying to pull on some money. A couple brothers and sisters come together, ain't nothing we could do. If FBAs are on code, a few of us, get some money and resources together, start coming together, putting up a few dollars. You got to 20 or 30 brothers or sisters, with $1,000, that's a good bit of capital to start our own businesses and institutions. You know what I mean? We got to start looking at things through the lens of playing as a team, and stop playing as I, because one person can't get a significant number of things done. Although they can get some things done, just having a team, you're going to be able to kick down more doors and more things is going to open up to you because you're stronger, playing as a team. How Dr. Claud Anderson is speaking about.
You go bankrupt every 24 hours, this is regular clock, and whites don't take you serious. They know that anybody who goes bankrupt every 24 hours should not be taken seriously. You started raising Cain outside their store, they say, hey, wait a minute, it's 3 o'clock, wait for those blacks, they'll go bankrupt in about another 3 hours. They know you're gonna violate all the rules. So the reason we don't have any black businesses in America is for 3 reasons. 1, we've never had a national plan to start building black businesses in the country. That's why I wrote my book. That's why you got a plan now. 2 is that whites and other groups are boycotting your neighborhoods. They're boycotting you. 3 reasons. 1, we've never had a national plan to start building black businesses.
See, you hear what Dr. Claud Anderson's saying, family, keeping it true, right, and exact. Other groups of people done been boycotted us, so we ain't got to feel sorry for not supporting these damn people in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We don't got to give them, no business support, no support and advocacy, speaking up for their needs and interests, because they don't look out for our people. Damn that. You know what I mean? That's the definition of insanity. Keep doing something and it's not reciprocal. Look out for your own people, support your own FBA businesses, and just be about the FBA agenda, a lineage-based agenda, first and foremost, because us being pulled in all these different directions, spending money outside of our community, we never get nothing done. We got to start looking out for FBAs first and foremost, you know what I mean? And that's how we get our leg up, and let's continue.
America for 3 reasons. 1, we've never had a national plan to start building black businesses in the country. That's why I wrote my book. That's why you got a plan now. 2 is that whites are...
And family, get brother Dr. Claud Anderson's book, Powernomics, and he got another book called White Labor, Black Wealth, I believe it's called. You know what I mean? Because this brother, lays out the blueprint of taking control of power, and getting on code based off of lineage. And he been telling us this for years, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of truth in what this brother says, you know what I mean? And he said also, a lot of groups are boycotting us. They are. They don't look out for FBA. They don't spend a dollar whatsoever in a foundational Black American business. So why the hell are we supporting Chinese restaurants, Asian nail shops, spending money with going in the bank with white banks, this, that, or the other, to where though when we need a loan, when we trying to make some power moves, buy a home or get a business ourselves, they ain't trying to give us the capital to do so. They just happy with the status quo. We got to get away from that, family.
Other groups are boycotting your neighborhoods. They're boycotting you. And 3, we're boycotting our own neighborhoods and our own stores. That's why we don't have anything.
I think that's an important aspect he talked about right there too, family. We're boycotting our own selves. We see an FBA brother or sister with a business, we got to support it. You know what I mean? At least attempt to support it. You know what I mean? And even if we got to drive a little bit further to get to the business, that won't hurt us. You know what I mean? Because we got to start looking at it to where though it's empowering our lineage. You know what I mean? And the money staying locked into our communities.
That's why we don't have anything. Now, as long as you live, you will never see a white person get up on a Saturday morning, drive down to a black neighborhood, and get out of his car and go into a black store to buy something made by a black person. If you do, take a picture of it.
And he's speaking true, right, and exact right there. He's keeping it all the way real. You will never see a white person going to patronize a black business waking up in the morning on a Saturday morning, you know? So why the hell are we supporting their businesses? You know what I mean? We got to ask ourselves that question. You know, stop supporting people and stop supporting businesses. Stop supporting whoever ain't got love for you. You know what I mean? Start supporting and being about your people first and foremost.
You have something very valuable one day. All over America, on Friday evenings, go to any big city, and you'll see blacks lined up to get into Chinatown, to go to China, eat some Chinese food. Have you ever seen Chinese lined up trying to get into a black town? But
Nope.
what they did with integration, they took the...
Nope, he's keeping it true, right, and exact. You know, black folks support these Chinese, Asian restaurants, this, that, and the other, quick, fast, and in a hurry. You know, but you never see these people, you know, coming to eat at no soul food restaurant. You know, you'll never see that. You know, and if you have seen that, like Dr. Claud Anderson said, you know, take a picture because you won't see it, you know, that often. You know what I mean? You know, so it's just critical, family, that FBAs get on code based off of lineage, and we've been doing a beautiful job of this. You know, identifying our lineage, getting on code, and being about FBAs first and foremost, to where though we're not getting involved in horizontal issues like politics. We can get involved in politics just as long as it's going to benefit us. You know, we ain't co-signing and endorsing the right wing or the left wing till they push a specific lineage-based policy to where though FBA is going to get our justice claim in the form of cash reparations. I think that, you know, we got to move on things, you know, how Dr. Claud Anderson is speaking. So I just wanted to give a big shout out and salute to our good brother, Dr. Claud Anderson, for all his years of service of really being about FBA empowerment, you know, and standing on business, family. I just wanted to highlight him. And I'm getting ready to get off of here, family. I didn't want to be on here too long. I appreciate everyone for tapping in with me. My brother Earl, my sister Queen Ivory, sister Patricia, the family Funky, and everyone else in the chat, you know, FBA Convo, you know, so your brother Mar is signing out on this one, you know, shout out and salute to all of the FBA family. Stay safe out there and be aware, family, because to be aware is to be alive. Stay safe and blessed up, family. Peace. And make sure to like and